everybody. It's Donna Woods, CEO of Photonic Health. And in today's edition of Health Made Simple, I have a super fun, cool, awesome guest that is got me really excited about feeding my dogs. And who would have thought that, like, feeding your dogs, not what to feed them, but how to feed them, could be such a revolutionary topic. And so I'd love to introduce to you guys today Carol Smeja. Carol,
Donna,
welcome.
thanks so much for having me. I'm so
Yeah.
excited to be here.
Yes, we met at Dr. Judy's recent International Pet Health Expo, and that is where I met you.
Right, right.
And I'm going to be really honest. Like, I've had type A personality dogs. I still have type A personality dogs. And I've known about slow feeders. I've used slow feeders. So I was like, when I saw yours, I was like, yeah, okay, it's another slow feeder. What's the big deal, right? And
Mhm.
it wasn't until I stopped and actually chatted with you and got the why behind your design is what made me so excited. So this is one of those things that you wouldn't think like a dog dish is something to be excited about, but I can tell you that, I mean, that event was in the beginning of May,
Right, right.
right? Middle of May, second weekend in May. And it's only been 5 weeks, five
Mhm.
weeks that I've been using your pet platters with my 3 dogs. And I have 3 dogs that are really, you know, they're type A, they're all 3 females. One's a Frenchton, so 3/4 Frenchie, 1/4 Boston Terrier.
Okay.
Looks like a Frenchie Terrier attitude. I've got a Patterdale Terrier who is all Terrier, and then I have a purebred Frenchie. And for those of you, well, even if you don't have a Frenchie, you know how super sensitive their stomachs are.
Mhm.
And so one of the things is, so I started feeding on your pet platters. I'm going to show them right here because I think they're so beautiful and they come in colors. We're going to be going through colors. Carol chose these colors for a very specific reason. So we're
Right.
going to get into that in the conversation. Everything that she designed here is very, very specific. And so we're going to deep dive into that. But one of the things that I have to tell you, Carol, so Frenchies have super sensitive stomachs, as most people know. So feeding them, I feed mine very simple meals so that their gut health stays in check.
Right.
And despite that, despite everything that I've done to make sure my Frenchies have really great diets and stomach, they don't have stomach stuff going on. My one little Frenchie would get acid reflux,
Right.
and it's a pretty, and it's a pretty common thing in that breed and also in other breeds.
Plant-based breeds especially.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, red light therapy takes it immediately out. But let's face it. I mean, that's our business, red light therapy.
Right.
But it's a reaction to a problem, and it doesn't. That in this particular case, it wasn't solving the problem. It would help her in the moment,
Right.
but
Right.
it wouldn't prevent it from happening.
Right.
Right. So I've been using these to feed my dogs with for 5 weeks. And I have to say that that acid reflux problem, like, it shows up maybe once every 10 days versus daily. And
That's
so
fantastic.
it has gone down like to nothing, like to
Right.
nothing. And that is not one of the things that I expected when I started using these, which is fabulous. Because we all want our dogs to live forever, or at least as long as us, right?
Yeah. Oh,
So,
absolutely.
yeah. So, Carol, let's get into the science of how you feed your pets. Not
Oh,
what you feed your pets, but how you feed your pets. You have a fascinating story. So, can you give me a little bit of background about how you started on this journey?
um, all ideas are sparked typically from your own experience, right?
Yes,
And ours is no different than that. We had a little 14-pound Havanese named Pip who had a big attitude and a big appetite. And when I would feed her from her bowl, she would eat in under 20 seconds flat and let out the most horrendous belch that if I had people over, they'd have tears streaming down their eyes. It was so loud and so penetrating. So one day, I was making her chicken breasts, cut it up on a cutting board. And my daughter said, "Oh, don't throw those away. Give it to Pip." So I put it down. And for the next 15 minutes, I was watching her and she was totally engaged. And I saw totally different eating behaviors. So I told my late husband when he had come home, I explained it to him and he said, "Eureka." So I'm a psychologist and I went back and studied how wolves and wildcats eat in the wild, because our dogs and cats are instinctive creatures.
yes,
Okay. And when you look at dogs specifically, they have over 95% similar DNA to their closest living relative, the gray wolf. So when you start looking at feeding from an ancestral perspective, which really means you're looking at it from a dog's perspective, a whole different world opens up because the bowl is a convenience for us. There's plenty
right.
of studies that ask people, why do you serve from a bowl? And they go, well, it's most convenient. The problem is when you look at wolves and then through their domestication, they used to eat from carcasses. We're the ones that force them into bowl eating. And so they have a whole new set of challenges. And just to go through it briefly, you're asking them to stick their snout into a dark hole. The sides of the bowl block their peripheral vision. They can't smell. They can only chomp down because it's piled high. And they really can't control it either because it's so small and contained. And the one thing I can share with your audience is the one place you don't want to feed your pet is in a kitchen corner.
Right.
And
Why would that be? Why would that be?
that's because their peripheral vision is blocked. No, not only is the bowl blocking their vision because their eyes are at 20-degree angle for better peripheral vision, but also the walls to the corner block it. But then they have this tremendous hearing. They can hear over a mile away. Their sense of hearing is 100 times stronger than ours. So they're hearing all these noises and lots of noises at very high frequencies that we can't hear. So when you think about it, you're putting them in the most anxiety ridden location that you could possibly feed them, which explains why they engage in food dumping from their bowl, food relocation, taking it to another room where they have better control over the environment and they can see if somebody's coming up to take their food.
How interesting. How interesting. So that's something that people can implement at home without even having your product is don't feed your dog in a corner and get it out of the corner so that they have a sense of safety.
Right.
And so I love that. That's amazing. Um,
So in our studies, I've done lots of observational studies. I've worked at zoos. I've worked with wildlife professionals. And what we fail to understand is, although they're part of our family, you know. Times of change, we really think of them as our children, but we also have to recognize the fact that they can still survive in the wild. They are
Yes.
instinctive. And I recently came up on a new example, and I wanted to share it with you, Donna. There was a dachshund in Australia who 1 year old, and the owners went on a camping trip and put their puppy in a little caged area. They went away for a little bit, came back, and the dog was gone. Okay. They looked and looked and looked, couldn't find it, had search teams, did everything. Little Valerie was lost. They thought the dog was gone forever. Believe it or not, this dog was found over a year and a half later, was able to survive. This dog was 8 pounds.
Oh my gosh,
This
little.
was this was on a small island off the southern coast of Australia called Kangaroo Island. And there's venomous rattlesnakes, there's eagles, it's filled with
It's
wild.
like Florida. It's like Florida.
That's a good example. And so somehow this dog absolutely survived, and they figured out it was mainly from roadkill and little rodents she may have found. And then she drank water from a dam there. And that's how she survived all that time,
Wow.
which is extraordinary. So
Absolutely.
what I
Absolutely.
try to educate people on is learn to appreciate the little wolf in your dog, and eating time is the single most important time in their day. They used to spend 95% of their time in the wild, hunting, foraging, tracking, deconstructing carcasses. So, I want people to remember when we feed from a bowl, it's like us eating from a fast food container. You eat it
Yes,
really fast, but you're still hungry afterwards, and there's been no enjoyment. That's what
right.
bowl feeding is for dogs.
Wow. Wow. Um, Carol, you really put a lot of, I know that when you and I chatted, you did, so can you give me a little bit of your professional background? Because I know that you are a trained psychologist, you were in practice, and then you went to corporate.
Right, right. And what I was doing was studying eating behaviors of humans.
How interesting.
And it is because I just made the transition over, but I worked with major food companies to understand what drives people's eating decisions. How do they eat? I even came up with the notion of nutritional schizophrenia, which is people will say they eat one thing, but when you look at what they actually eat, it's an entirely different thing. And it's sort of a psychological phenomena that we engage in to
Right.
sort of push our bad eating habits to the side. We're sort of pushing them out of our view.
Right, right. Avoidance, avoidance.
Exactly.
Avoidance. I wanted to bring that up because I feel like it's so relevant to
Mhm.
your company and to the testament of the design of your product. Because you didn't go out to set out to build just a slow feeder, you know? And of course, there's lots of different slow feeders on the market. You can buy them, all day long. But the thing that I love about your product is there's science behind it, there's research behind it, and there's an absolute reason that you designed this
Right, right.
the reason that you did. So,
So the
can
whole,
you go, can you
yeah.
go into this a little bit? Can we talk
Absolutely.
about colors?
Well, and you know what? It's really interesting because when you even think about slow feeding, okay, what I refer to this as is a natural feeder. It's a species appropriate way to eat. And when we design things from our dog's perspective, it totally changes the way you look at it. So the actual shape is designed to be large enough that the dogs can actually control the platter. They can actually circle around it. And when wolves killed prey in the wild, they wouldn't immediately start eating. They would circle in both directions to make sure nobody could come down and steal their food at all. So it's very important not to feed in a corner and to pull away from the wall, but allowing them this control, because that reduces their anxiety. Their whole extraordinary sensory circuit is designed for survival for them.
Yes.
Everything, the way they smell, the way they see, the way they hear, everything can trigger warnings that somebody's threatening you and your resources. Okay.
Yes.
So the first thing is the size is designed specifically so they can control it. And as you'll see, there's no sides on the pet platter at all. So there's nothing blocking their vision. They have 360-degree view and movement. Then the surface of the pet platter is supposed to represent a carcass that they can control. And one of the things, when you use a bowl, you're shoving all that food into one location. You can spread food all across the platter, but you can also put out different proteins, different vegetables, goat's milk, bone broth, and create a literal plate that has different food elements on it. Why is that important? When they would deconstruct carcasses, they would remove the organ meat first because that was the richest food for them from a nutrient perspective. And then they would make other nutrient choices. So by serving on a flat surface like that, you're engaging their sense of smell, which is stimulating their mind to make food choices, which is very, very important. But also, because it's flat and because we have the ridge and the scoops here, dogs can't scoop food up fast. There's no side to push the food against. So the pet platter actually naturally slows not only the amount, but the pace eaten, which you're experiencing with your own dogs. And
Yes.
here's another important element that we found out. With slow feeders, you never want anything poking them directly into their nose, because the inside of the nose has mucous membrane. And when there's constant pounding, it swells and it becomes painful. And then when food flies up in there, it dries out the nasal cavity and they can't smell it all.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always talk about honor thy dog's nose. You never want anything hitting into it all. That's why everything with the pet platter is designed downward. There's no projectiles coming up.
Right, right. And so I'm gonna insert a video for you guys to see. It'll be just a real short clip. It's actually of my three dogs eating from the pet platter. And you know, when Carol first told me that the dogs are gonna circle around the platter and that the food won't go off the edges, I'm thinking to myself, yeah, lady, what up? No, there's no way. And literally from the very start, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah,
Like, so I don't get food on the floor. My dogs are very cautious and very careful about how they eat off of the platter.
yeah,
Um, like you said, it's very selective because, you know, I put their proteins on, I put supplements in there. Um, it's just been incredible to watch. But the other thing was the circling of it. Because I've never seen them circle. They're not wolves, and you know they're not. I mean, as much as my Frenchie would think she could, you know, get a squirrel or something, she can't. Um,
right.
and I've got a video, and you'll actually see all three of the dogs are really taking their time and eating their food and circling around the platter. And it's made such a huge difference.
Oh, that's so great. And the other thing that the pet platter is great for is puppies. We even have breeders using our pet platter because if you feed from a bowl, you're basically teaching them to gulp food up.
Right,
Okay. They chomp down on the pile and then they use their lower jaw to push up against the side of the bowl, and it acts as a backward conveyor belt.
right.
When they eat off the platter, you'll see them going after the highest protein foods first and actually making food selections. But close to 50% of people report problems with their dogs being fast eaters and therefore having digestive issues.
Yeah.
So the pet platter will actually stop that with young pups if you start them young.
Yes. And there's a reason that it helps with digestion. And so can you give us the explanation on all the little bumpies here
Right.
and the ridge?
So the little scoops here is designed to resemble the ends of bones, and we actually everything about the pet platter is measured. There's a reason for everything. These are designed so their tongues can fit into it easily, so it can access the food. Part of the problem of the lick type mats that are out there, they're designed to slow dogs down, but the problem is they have all these sharp corners and areas where the dogs are smelling the food, but they can't get at it. And I should say one of the most important things to know is dogs have over 100 million sense sites in their noses
Right.
versus our 6 million. So we can't even begin to compare on that. So with these sort of surfaces that have food in where they can't get to it, it leads to obsessive compulsive licking, which leads to really rapid licking and actually causes aggressive behavior. So a lot of people who contact us about that, we basically educate them. Your dog is engaging in obsessive compulsive behavior. The reason is they're frustrated that they can't get to the food, which is why they're ripping them apart. So with the pet platter, they can actually get at all the food, and that includes the ridge here.
Yes.
We have dogs. Some of our users send their platters and go, "This is after a meal," and it looks like it's completely clean.
Correct. Correct. Well, mine got fed this morning and I did not wash them. So, I mean, they are,
I
you can
love
see,
it.
I like, they lick them clean.
uh,
Now, the ridges,
well,
yeah, talk more about
yeah.
the ridges and the,
Well, the ridges are supposed to resemble the rib cage, okay? And you can shove food in there and also put like goat's milk and bone broth in there. And actually, during the summer, and especially in Florida during the summer, you can fill the scoops and ridge with any sort of liquid, pop it in your freezer, and these act like little ice cream cone treats, and
right,
they'll lick and lick and lick,
like,
and they'll be totally asleep within 20 minutes. Um,
right,
the reason for the scoops is licking releases positive endorphins in their brain, which are relaxing and rewarding. So, whatever you're feeding them from, you want to make sure it's a very slow, methodical licking so you know you're not causing any frustration because that actually reduces the cortisol level.
right,
And there you'll see some dogs, especially rescues, where their trigger warnings are on high alert all the time, which leads to oxidative stress. And there's not enough antibodies that can come and take care of that cortisol then,
right,
antioxidants. So it's very important. And that's why I always say observe the way your dog is eating. You
yeah,
want to make sure it's a relaxed, they also have a relaxed stance. With the pet platter, your dog eats over, rather into. They're in a convex position like wolves eat versus a concave where food gets caught in their throats and you have the regurgitation issue. So the position that they're eating from is very important.
I love that. I love that. Can we, yes. So one of the other things that I thought of when you, I'm the one that primarily feeds them and I've got two cats. So I sort
Yeah.
of have to, you know, stand there and watch everybody eat to make sure that the dogs don't go after the cat food,
Right.
right? You know, that's what they do. And so what I've noticed is there's a lot more licking going on.
Yes.
And just from a perspective of digestion, digestion starts in the salivary glands in the mouth. And
Right.
so I think this helps to contribute to the more that they lick on a relaxed basis, it
Mhm.
actually improves their digestion.
Dogs have the fastest digestive tract of any living mammal.
Yeah,
Food just zooms through there, and they have a very short intestine, so nutrient absorption is very difficult. So the pet platter, by slowing down the amount and the pace, actually improves nutrient absorption because the enzymes are going to have plenty of time to work in that small intestine for absorption then.
I love
And
that.
people are spending so much money on food today, but pet parents need to realize if your pet isn't eating it properly, they're not getting all that nutrient absorption.
Right, exactly. I just got a different car yesterday, literally,
Yeah,
and my salesman has two dogs, and he spent I about fell over $350 a month
wow.
feeding his dogs. And I was just like,
Whoa,
wow,
that is
wow.
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah. And so it's one of those things. The other thing that I noticed is my little Frenchton. She's actually, you know, she's wound pretty tight.
yeah.
But she's actually gained weight. She wasn't thin, she was in really good shape. But she's actually gained weight despite us feeding her the same amount. So
That's fantastic.
we've had to actually pull back just a little bit to
Yeah,
make sure that she doesn't get, you know,
yeah,
chunky.
yeah. But
um,
but that's a perfect example of the
yeah.
importance of how you feed. It's a perfect demonstration of that.
Yeah, yeah. So I just love the entire, you know, that you've taken the time to really look at the natural instincts of the wolves and how they eat and how they select and how they would eat in the wild and then adapt it to something that our dogs can use and implement and integrate every day. The other thing that I've noticed, Carol, um, is my dogs play more with each other.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting? Like they've always played together, you know, they've always gotten along, they've always played together, but
Yeah.
I'm talking like hardcore wrestling, like
Um,
hardcore play, not dominance, just play. And
we may have
and
an answer for that.
tell me because I'm like, how could this
Right.
increase the energy levels of my dogs?
Well, part of what we looked into is dogs have a different color spectrum than we do. They have a lot more rods than cones in their retina. So what that means is they have excellent night vision and motion detection, but they're more limited from a color perspective. Okay. So
Okay.
we actually looked at the different spectrums that animals have, and dogs can see blues and yellows best, followed by red, which is more of a brownish grayish color. So the pet platter comes in those 3 colors. And the reason for that is they adopt the color that they're first served on as their personal feeding territory.
Yep.
And when they adopt that color, they respect the color of the other dog's pet platter,
Yes.
which eliminates food aggression and food stealing. But by giving them their own feeding territory, which is why we call it the Mine Pet Platter, by giving them that territory, it reduces a lot of the uneasiness and anxiety, worried about the other dog coming at them or taking food or anything else. And rescues use this. They'll start feeding at the rescue facility. They send it home with them into their forever home. And it makes the transition easier because the pet platter is coming with them. They adopt it as a personal friend. And so there's no problems in transitioning to new feeding habits at their forever home. And it just makes the whole process so much easier. And we've even had some people send us dogs who are really anxiety ridden. They sleep by it and they'll take naps
Oh,
by it and visit it during the day. So it's much more than just a feeding territory. It really does become a personal friend, but it reduces all that anxiety that their
right.
instinctive behavior is being exhibited.
So we're reducing cortisol levels, and if we can reduce cortisol levels, it's going to make a healthier dog. So this is one of those things where I feel like it's a proactive thing, and it's simple. It's as simple as just changing what not don't change what you're feeding, just change how you're feeding it, and
Right.
you're gonna get positive impact, whether you're cooking for your dog, whether you feed raw. I
Right.
don't feed kibble, but my understanding is it works well for kibble as well.
It does do. But here's another important thing. If you're serving from a bowl, your dog isn't tasting their food.
Interesting.
And the reason for that is dogs taste their food through their sense of smell. They
Mm.
only have 1,700 taste buds versus our 9,000. So the only way they can really actually taste food is through that powerful sense of smell with over 100 million sense sites. In
Wow.
fact, just to give people an idea, dogs can smell a teaspoon of sugar in an Olympic sized pool. Okay? They have
Yep.
their sense of smell is 10,000 times stronger than us. So that's why feeding them, it's so important to look at it from their perspective because their sensory circuit is entirely different than ours.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I shared with you this story when you were telling me about the colors. I was just blown away, right? Because, I mean, I've had slow feeders in purple and green and, all those fun colors.
Yeah,
Um, but then when you really talked about the colors, like the specific colors, I went, how interesting, because we have horses,
yeah,
um, and we feed them in a natural environment, and they have different colored buckets.
yeah,
And and my horses are like, it doesn't matter what order I change the buckets to. I have several of my horse. Some of them are just, my one is just like he
yeah,
doesn't care. He's like, I'll eat anything. But my girls are more particular, and they literally will go to, like, I've got 2 buckets that are pink. Well, my
yeah.
2 horses that eat out of the pink buckets, I can move it anywhere, and that's where they will go to, is to their pink buckets.
See,
And I know that, horses have different eyes than we do as well, and I'm guessing well,
there's
they
variations. Yeah,
there are variances, but of course, I can't help but wonder, like, for horses, the way that we feed them, because they are grazers, and they actually, this is a little known fact that most people don't know about horses, is they have almost the same amount of senses and scent, whatever you call them,
Okay.
as dogs do.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, they train horses to do cadaver retrieval.
Wow, I
So
wasn't aware of
when
that.
somebody's missing and they call out the horses,
Yeah.
it's a multifold because they can cover more ground, they can get into different areas, but those
Right,
horses are also trained to smell
right, right.
for
Interesting.
that.
Well, this will be you have to let me know about this. And again, this goes back to honoring their noses.
Right.
The area of their brain which is used for decoding smells is
Yeah.
40 times larger than ours.
Wow.
So that shows the power of how they're triggered. We have wolves at the zoo who are blind, who can maneuver perfectly through their sense of smell. And
Wow.
the other thing is they smell in 3D just like we see in 3D.
Oh, how
One
interesting.
sense is for location and the other sense is for identification, and it comes together to create a picture. So when you look at the totality of hearing, sight, smell, it's really their sense of smell which is dictating.
That's incredible.
So
That's
I'd like
incredible.
to know, I'm going to look that up about horses then.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I need, and so that brings me to sizes because these are actually, this size is actually designed for my little dogs.
Right.
And my understanding is they come in 2 or 3 different sizes.
It's two sizes,
Okay.
and you can
Yeah.
see the difference there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And really, we have real big dogs like Mastiffs, German Shepherds, all sorts that eat off of it. But we probably did testing on 400 or 500 dogs to see what worked and what didn't work. And because we had to make it marketable too, we can't come out with 15 different sizes. So
Correct.
yeah,
Correct.
so we
Yeah.
recommend a small platter for those dogs under 20 to 25 pounds, and then over that to the larger platter. But if you have a fast eating dog, we recommend going to the larger size to give them that more territory that they can explore then.
Yeah. I
And
love
the
that.
other thing, and everybody has different ways of feeding, but the one thing I can say, even after working at the zoo, all animals experience food monotony.
Hmm.
Okay. If you feed the same protein, the same brand, whatever, they get tired of it and they
Yeah.
will stop eating. The penguins do that, all different animals do. So the one thing we can do is be cognizant by selecting new proteins and new things to put on their menu. You're stimulating their engagement with the meal as well, which leads to more satisfaction.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Carol, if people would, well, you've been very generous. If anybody that's watching this would like to learn more about the Mine Pet Platter, they can go to mine, M-I-N-E, petplatter.com.
Right.
We will provide you guys with a coupon code to get 10% off. So thank you for that.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
and if they have any specific questions once they visit your website, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Just you can go to info@minepetplatter.com, and we have a great team of people who are there to answer questions. And here's the thing, even if you don't have a pet platter and even if you don't buy one, we're always there to help people with their questions because our goal is to help all pets. So feel free to come at us with any type of question you have. We're happy to help.
Yes, I love that. Carol, again, this does it, I never thought I'd get so excited about a feeding apparatus for my dogs. But the changes that I've seen in mine have just been incredible. So, and again, because you've really taken the time to do the research, to do the studies, to do that, and to design it in a natural and more organic, ritualistic wolf kind of way.
Yeah, I
For
like that phrase.
Yeah, for the dogs, like to feel, to feel with more congruent with with their innate desires and needs is
Yeah.
incredible. And I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan. I think everybody should get one for their dogs because it really truly does. It's a game changer. And the more we can feed, not just what we're feeding them, but how we're feeding them. And something as simple as changing your bowl out to a pet platter, and you can see improved health benefits.
Yeah.
And today, I see that there's probably as many mental health issues with dogs as there are physical issues.
Yeah.
So for me to be able to see, even among my little pack, the physiological changes and the emotional improvements has just been like, you didn't tell me about that.
Donna, you brought up something so important. If I can just put this in,
Absolutely.
um, if you have a finicky dog, finicky eater, observing their behavior is important because they're communicating with you that something's not right about their feeding territory. And about 4 or 5 months ago, we came across several videos, people questioning what their dogs were doing. Veterinarians didn't have any solutions. They're being told it's just instinctive behavior, just ignore it. Anytime they're not eating and communicating with head, paws, body, it's important for us to diagnose this. There's a very prevalent thing called air-bearing food, which is when the dog refuses to eat and it's sort of like he's pawing in the air, almost like he's trying to air bury it, but he doesn't
Okay.
touch it.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
they'll circle their head like that. Circling heads in a pack of wolves usually signifies distress or anxiety. And the fact that they're pawing like that means I'm not comfortable with how you're feeding me and where you're feeding me. So the pet platter has solved that problem. These dogs were anxiety ridden. They were usually either in a bowl that they felt uncomfortable with, or the mat type things where they couldn't get to the food. They didn't want to experience that kind of anxiety. So the
Right.
pawing and the head turning like that is
Right.
saying, feed me differently.
Feed me differently. Yes.
Yeah.
Now
So,
I do have a question.
yeah,
Um, can these be used for cats?
yes, they absolutely can. We will be coming out with a cat platter. It's been delayed quite a bit, but we'll be sure to notify you where that's at. But yeah, the small pet platter, all of our cat pet parents use the small bone platter for that. And the really good thing about that is you don't want to feed from any sort of bowl or feeder that has sides because of whisker fatigue. When the bowl hits into the whiskers are embedded way deep, and there's nerve endings in there which can become very painful. So the pet platter helps with that. But also the cats will sit perched at one end, much like they do when they kill prey in the wild. And this gives them the ability to shoot up if they feel threatened at all. And so they'll operate at the end of the pet platter. But the scoops, you can put tuna juice in there, works all the same. And you can freeze food or put it on, hang it against the wall, and they can lick it on the side of the wall as well.
That's incredible.
And the reason for the hole isn't for them, it's for us, so we can pick it up off the floor
Yes,
easily.
I figured that out. I figured that out. Oh my God, Carol, this has been, I just love talking to you, and I love this. I just love all of the thought, the research, the intentionality behind the design of your product. We're very holistic. We do everything with our animals as holistic as possible, including
Right.
our horses. And we've been studying horse psychology and their innate behaviors for, gosh, nearly 30 years. And so to be able to run across you that you've put all of that innateness into your product, and especially with the brachycephalic breeds, like the brachycephalic breeds have a whole extra level of issues. And I never thought of it, you know, I mean, I've had terriers and hounds, and we fed them out of slow feeders, and I never even thought twice about, you know, when they're sticking their nose in trying to get the food, that it's actually, you know, detrimental to their physiology.
Yeah.
And so I'm super excited about this, and I love you. I think
Oh,
you're amazing.
oh,
And when you do get your cat stuff, let's do a whole episode dedicated to cats.
that sounds great. That sounds great. But let me say one thing to you, okay? It is a joy meeting somebody who is so committed to the health and well-being of pets. And without people like you know, you give us a platform to help educate people. And that's our mission right now, is to share the science of feeding pets. So thank you for having me. We're friends forever now. I think you know that.
Yes, yes, we're both Chicago girls. We gotta stick together.
That's right.
Yes. So if you are interested in learning more about Carol's amazing pet platters, please visit her website at minepetplatter.com. If you have any questions, you can reach out directly to her company at info@minepetplatter.com. If you'd like to chat with us about our personal experience, please reach out to us. We are happy to answer any questions that you might have about it, because we use the product. And I think that's one of the things that comes across the people that I typically interview and bring to my group of people, is that we use everything that we talk about with other people. You know, and because I can't endorse something that I don't know if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I know that, Carol, the price range on these is what, 30?
The small one goes for $39.95 and the large for $44.95, but it's good for the lifetime of your pet. You don't have to replace it. It's very durable. And just seeing your pet visit it during the day and nap by it, it makes you realize that it's more than a feeder, it's a friend. And that's important.
Correct. Well, not to mention the fact that all of these anxiety issues go away, the high cortisol problems go away, they're absorbing more of the nutrients. Like your ROI on this is going to be like 1 month or less. So to me, like it was worth every penny. And so thank you for being on. As always, lots and lots of fun to chat with you. And go take a look at her website. It's absolutely amazing. And give us feedback. Let us know if you get a pet platter, and let us know what your experience is on it. We'd love to hear from you.
Oh,
Thank
great.
you,
Thanks so
Carol.
much, Donna.